This is very, very dangerous to go live when I'm doing first impressions. This might be the first one of them we've done live, okay? A lot of you guys have been asking about the Athlon scopes for quite some time, like maybe last 2 years. I have some friends of mine who are from the area who've been running some of the more affordable Athlon stuff, and I got a chance to see some of them at some of the training events. I did get to see a few of the rifle scopes, but I've never really had a lot of hands-on experience yet. So this is going to be taking a first look at a couple of these different models, which I haven't really seen yet in hand. This is the CRONUS. We're going to take a look at that. This one is a well, let's see what we got here. 4.5 to 29, right? 56 millimeter, 34 millimeter main tube, etc., etc. You guys, I'm sure if you're watching this video are probably already curious about those optics. You can read the specifications online. Here is the Athlon. What the heck is this? The ARES ETR. Okay, we're going to take a look at this one too. Now, first impressions, packaging is really nice. Obviously, this is the first review I've done, tabletop review style. We'll see how it goes. Box is built nice. Packaging's nice. This one, it's actually pretty heavy, guys. They're both pretty darn hefty, which is something I like. Now, if I was in a different part of the country and I was worried about weight for some godforsaken reason, I'd complain about the weight. But I like robustness. Weight is generally indicative of quality, especially in terms of precision optics, in my opinion. So which one do you guys want to check out first? We got the CRONUS. Let's look at the CRONUS, huh? Okay, let's see what we got going on. Okay, so we got the sleeve box dealio, right? Sleeve comes off. Now this is fancy. You take off the box and it's still in the box. You got a lid here, huh? You guys see this? Let me back up a little bit here. So we got this deal. What the heck? Man, this sucker is packaged nice. Okay, so here's what she looks like when she comes in the box. Probably going to dump it out on the table. The first battle testing. So we got the little booklet. We got a battery and a little Allen, or the little wrench deals. And here's the scope. Okay, let's take a look at this little critter. All right, let's look at it. Very attractive, I know. Oh boy. Okay. Well, how are you supposed to see anything with this in there? Way to go, Athlon. Oh, we'll just take that. So this one, first thing I noticed, it is made in Japan, which is a good thing. I believe this is an LOW scope, Light Optics, in Japan, which is the same outfit that does a lot of the real high-end tier 1 stuff from Japan, like Mag Force and a lot of the Vortex and Primary Arms, and a lot of super popular Japanese stuff is made at Light Optics. That's one of the better plants. So let's take a look at some of the features here. Let's try the old turrets first off, what I like to play with. So we got, all right, we got 0. Let's see if we can show you guys. Okay, that's nice, actually. So we got 0, and then you got 2 different sets of numbers, which is a nice smart feature, I think, where you can do a spin and then count again on the next set of numbers. Otherwise, you're adding to it. So you got 10. It looks like we got 10 revolutions per turn. That's a nice even number. So I'll crank it up here. I'm going to go past 10. Oh, I'm going the wrong way, guys. trying to film myself and do it live and play at the scope and honestly absorb it all at the same time. Very, very fun. Okay, so we're coming up here. You know, on 13, it has the little numbers up there. See? The extra numbers on the top rotation. Okay. Now, I do believe this has a 0 stop. Just come back down. I believe that's something I'd have to set. Each mechanism's a little different. Okay, so we got quite a bit of adjustment there. Yeah. So the 0 stop comes not set at all, which is nice because you can go up and down. Windage turrets. Looks like we have 5 mils marked out on here. So I got to tell you, one thing that's generally indicative, a lot of reviewers look at this, is the positivity of the clicking mechanism. Now, back in the day, that was generally indicative of overall scope quality because you could tell, how robust the mechanisms in general were. However, the market has caught on to that, and a lot of the different outfits that are smart and know that people are looking for that will put a little bit more cash into the clicking mechanism itself to give you that good quality. But this does have nice, solid, audible clicks if that's what you're looking for. I found over the years that sometimes you got to verify that those clicks are connected to things. There's certain optics that are very popular. You crank it back and forth and it's clicking nicely, but it's actually not connected to the inner adjustment post. And so the clicking is not necessarily indicating that you're actually moving someplace. So it's more complex than that. But that is a nice feature. I do like that. So that feels nice. Over here we got our Parallax. You see how the Parallax is set up, guys? Okay, we got 25, and it's definitely very tight, not in a bad way. Actually kind of like that. And then we got our Illumination. So let's try that. Let's look through this thing. I'm gonna look outside here, okay, guys? What the heck? Okay. Accelerating video, isn't it, guys? So I'm on 15 power. I think it's still got a pretty nice pretty nice eye box, right? At 4.5, I don't see any tunneling here. There's no tunneling effect. Sometimes you'll have that. Now let me crank it up. Wow. Okay, so I'm on 29 power, and the reticle is actually very nice and fine still. So this thing is balanced out nicely. The reticle is, it's his first focal plane, okay? So as I'm turning it up and down, it's zooming in and out of the reticle staying proportional to the target, which is something desirable for a lot of applications. Man, on 5 power, it's a very, very thin deal. You can see it, but it's very small, very thin. At 10 power, the reticle is very nice and thin. I actually like thin reticles, but when you crank it up to 29, it's actually pretty usable. So these guys are kind of shifting the usability of this optic more over towards the higher end of the magnification in terms of how the reticle is spaced out there. And we'll do this if we get a chance to do a full comprehensive review on this. We'll actually show you the reticle, okay, guys? But the adjustment, the magnification here, ring, is smooth. There's no slop in it, but it's relatively tight, okay? Which is, there's different feels on different scopes. It depends on exactly what they're trying to go for. I could anticipate in super cold weather, you'd want to have this set like in wherever you want to go, because it's going to be too cold probably to move around safely. But that's how a lot of scopes are set up. The overall proportion is not bad. It's a little bit kind of a compact style design in terms of the proportions of how big the lens is here. Kind of comes back quickly. I wonder what the overall length, I think it's like 14 inches or something like that. Okay, so this is a pretty darn nice looking scope. Let's do the illumination real quick. Oh, I gotta put the battery in there for that, don't I? And we'll see when we take it apart, but this looks like how we get into the turret there so we can find our zero stop adjustment. And actually there's no set screws anywhere around the turret cap. So it's all going to be up in here to set things. And that's a design I've seen before. That's actually a pretty good way of doing it. So that's the Athlon CRONUS. Okay, by looking at it, I can tell you it's not going to suck. It's probably going to be pretty nice. That's just my guess. Now, I can't say that without doing field testing, right? But, I mean, I've seen a lot of different scopes over the years. This thing's built pretty nice, actually. It's built pretty nice. All right. Scope number 2, guys. The ETR. Check that deal out, huh? Okay, so the packaging ain't near as fancy in this one. We just have, you open the box and it's open right away. The other one, you have to open the box 3 times. Okay, we got, this is what she looks like when she comes out. Got the foamy stuff holding it in, right? And for years I used to watch tabletop reviews and just make fun of them. Like, yep, this scope's gonna shoot real good, or this gun is awesome, because I took it out of the box. But here we are. I like to, it's an act of courtesy to get that first video out there initially, rather than guys waiting for like 19 years for me to like drive the scope to Hades and back 10 times to make sure it's okay. Because I am obnoxious in how I got to test these things. So, out of a courtesy, we'll get a little bit of awareness out there that we are playing with them. Okay, so here's the other one. We got a different finish. This is more of a black finish. Kind of, you can tell this is made in a different outfit. Yep, okay, this one is Chinese. It's made in China. Which nowadays, actually, guys, ain't always a bad thing. China's caught up to where Japan was just like maybe a decade ago. And so a lot of the top-notch Japanese stuff, like 10, 15 years ago, is where China's caught up to. And maybe even beyond that in some ways. It really has to do with the machining and the optics. A lot of the technology has finally been successfully duplicated by the Chinese, if you want to put it that way. So this is also a 34 millimeter main tube. Now you see the proportion difference on this scope, and we'll talk about this. This might be a good place to give you some top secret information, guys, versus this scope. See the proportion difference? Hold on. This one's a little more compact. This one's a little longer, okay? Why is that important, you might ask? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. So this one's a 4.5 to 30 power, okay? So we got a very similar adjustment range as the last one. The last one I think was 4.5 to 29, okay? So we got that. Now you can feel the difference in style of craftsmanship on this one right away. The ring moves a little easier, maybe about the same, but you can feel the machining a little more. The other one was very smooth, but this is still not bad. It's pretty hefty, and there's actually subtle advantages or significant advantages to this general proportion and configuration of optics, which we'll get into in a minute. Take a look at the turrets. Okay, so this one just has one set of numbers going around. We still have 10 mils per revolution. Holy Moses. Okay, so this one has actually more audible clicks than the other one did. The other one, you guys could hear that or what? That's a very, very, very solid click, right? And this one is the Japanese one. Very nice too, but a little bit different style mechanisms, right? This one actually has a very, very tight feel to it, almost like a PM2 style, kind of a very tight, acute click. I ain't saying it's a PM2, guys. That is not what I'm saying. But the clicking, the style of that, all it is a little detent with a little piece of metal that goes into some kind of spring-loaded little deal, okay? That's what gives you the clicks. Okay? And we got... All right, so this one pulls out the windage turret. You got to pull it out. Okay, so this is actually pretty nice. Okay, this is the first time I've seen one of these scopes where when you pull out, you know, the ones where you got to pull them in and out. A lot of them have that kind of I don't want to say a chintzy feel to it. This thing is pretty darn solid, man. Hear that? Kind of a crunchy flavor. Rex is crazy. It's crunchy? What the hell does that mean? Okay, our Parallax, 25 to infinity. Let's take a look through this deal real quick. Let's see where we're at. Wow. It's not bad, guys. What's the price point on this thing? I told you this is dangerous. It could be dangerous for me too. I might get in trouble if I do like it. Very nice reticle again. Very similarly configured to the other one. I'm going to crank her all the way up to 30 power. Still very usable. Maybe a little thicker than the other one. And the reticle style is kind of a grid style, you know, reticle, mill grid. And they're like little dots, basically. What the heck? Okay. So guys, my honest this is just a first impressions deal, guys. This ain't the full comprehensive review. You will never know until you shoot it and try it, how it's going to track, how reliable it's going to be. But these are both very nice in terms of how they feel. If I was looking at scopes over the counter at the gun store and trying to get a general sense of the quality overall of the craftsmanship, I'd say these are both very nice. Actually. Okay, you guys want a little scope optics lesson for the day? So, there are different ways they can build scopes in terms of the angle that the focal point comes in on, okay? And you can tell by looking at a scope and its general proportions, its general overall shape, if they're going to struggle with getting the reticle placed perfectly or getting the focus perfectly in line or not, okay? And what we're talking about is the light has to enter in through the objective lens up here, right? It's going to be pinched down. Well, come on this side. It's going to be pinched down like this, right? And at some point, it's going to come into the first focal plane where it first focuses, okay? And it's going to flip that image upside down in here someplace, okay? The first focal plane area. When that image is flipped upside down, it'll then go through a series of lenses here called the erector, okay? And it will re-erect that image, flip it right side up again, and then it'll come out through that second focal plane and into your eyeball, and you'll see upright images, not upside down. If you just had an old school telescope like they had way back in the day, like remember that Robin Hood movie? Was it Morgan Freeman or someone in there? And he had that telescope. Stuff like that in the old days when you just roll up a tube of leather and put like a crystal in there, that stuff would flip your image upside down. But when you have a longer configured optic, like this is longer and more slender than this, and they're the same objective lens diameter, I believe. Yep, these are both 56 millimeter objective lenses, okay? So you have the same amount of light. In the longer one, it has a longer distance to come into that focal point. So your light angle is going to be more flat like this. One that's scrunched together and a little shorter with a kind of more proportionally fat and short kind of design. Very nice footprint on the design, but the light has to now come in like this, okay? Now there's an issue there when you talk about optics manufacturing, the exact placement of where the focus is going to be, right? The issue is that when it's flat like this in the longer, more slender optics, it's a lot easier for them to place that focus. You have a whole range here where all the wavelengths are kind of in that same general space, right? The second you have it shaped more like this, the focal point, right? Like in a shorter, fatter scope, now that reticle would have to be placed perfectly on that X, because if you're over off a little bit like this, it's going to be a lot more out of focus, right? And that has to do with the optics of getting it clear and everything else. How all the light comes together and intersects is actually going to be kind of an issue. If you have it configured too short and fat, it becomes more difficult to get everything to work properly, is what I'm saying. Not going to say it doesn't work properly. It's just that their tolerances on the exact placement of all the different stuff and how all the lens arrangements have to be configured, the glass and where the reticle's at has to be perfectly in the right spot due to the optical geometry of where that focal point is. Does that make sense, guys? You understand that? And so, like, that's why a lot of your old classic scopes, like even the Schmidt-Bender PM2, I can grab one out of the other room, is proportioned very much like this one. And these are a lot easier to get in focus, and just because of the shape of the optics, of the optical geometry of how the light's being bended. You have more forgiveness because you have the waves coming in like this rather than like this. Does that make sense, guys? That's why, I mean, it's interesting. If you look at the percentages, I don't know if I want to get into that, but if you talk to the engineers and stuff who test this stuff full time, and you look at the percentages of how off a design like this can be before it actually affects the end result, you can be off by quite a bit. You can be a lot more sloppy in your manufacturing process in a scope configured to these proportions and have better optical results. Whereas if you have something like this, you have to spend quite a bit more money to get it to be perfect to where it works, just because of the geometry involved. Interesting tidbit there. Not to say one's superior to the other, but that's why a lot of the old school classic rifle scope proportions have evolved to be this general shape. The trend nowadays is to go a little shorter and fatter, and that can be done. Just mind you that it might be a little more difficult to get everything perfectly sorted out. And that's where we're going to have fun when we do the testing, guys. I'm going to compare these critters right next to each other. We're going to see how clear they are, how well everything's proportioned, how everything works out. Low lighting, we like to do various lighting conditions. You can't just check low light or what. There's different angles. There's a lot of different lighting conditions and atmospherics that are involved with how optics are engineered to perform properly. And so we like to thoroughly vet all that stuff. But when we do get into it, okay, now the turret mechanism, the zero stop is also the same on this Chinese version here. You have the turret has a little screw slot. Did we lose this deal? I'll tell you what, man. My iPad is going nuts. All right, guys, that's the basic overall gist of this review. We'll pop back in with a live stream real quick after I get this thing squared away and off of its glitch here. Can still hear me? Hey, how you guys doing? All right, guys, I'm going to kill it, and then I'll come back in, and we'll talk about another subject. All right, that's the review on the Athlon, ARES, and CRONUS, the desktop initial first impressions before we get them in the field.